Hey guys, Mr. Happy here. Before we get into the video, I just want to let any of my regular viewers know that this video is a repeat of the information we got at the Japanese Fan Festival that existed in previous videos. I had noticed several videos with footage from the opening keynotes on YouTube had been removed recently, and as I want to maintain a professional relationship with Square Enix, I have removed my videos using that same footage as well. Hopefully, you understand. With that out of the way, this video is going to contain information on the 3 confirmed jobs for Heavensward. Now, we don't know if these are the only 3 jobs that are going to be in the expansion, but I'd be surprised to see any more than the 3 we got. Now, we do have a tank, a healer, and a DPS, so let's go through each of them and the information we have so far. So the first job I'm just going to do a quick recap on is Dark Knight. We haven't gotten any new information about this since the London Fan Festival, although we do have some great high quality images here that give you a better idea of how the job is going to play. So just as a recap, it is going to be the tank of Heavensward, 3rd tank in the game. Their weapon of choice is going to be a greatsword, which is a very, very large and heavy sword, and you can see that in the screenshots coming up. And they're also going to implement the powers of darkness into their abilities. Now, we weren't really sure if this was more magical or if this was deeper into the Dark Knight's lore. Based on the images we see here, it's hard to really tell. It looks as if it's being combined with their physical attacks. I mean, you can see it. There's darkness trailing their weapons. They can shoot dark energy blasts out of their hands. And on top of that, their attacks are really slow and heavy, so I'm having a hard time believing that they'd be able to cast too much magic. But Dark Knight classically in the Final Fantasy series has always had access to some magical abilities, some of them exclusive to the Dark Knight, some of them sort of drawing from the weaker spells that a black mage might use. So curious to see how that's going to work in Final Fantasy XIV. Now, one thing that I do want to mention about the Dark Knight is this iteration of the Dark Knight, not the Dark Knight itself, is actually inspired from an anime/manga called Berserk. Now, as I'm not an anime watcher myself, I don't have too big of an idea here, but the main character, Guts, is a guy who's in heavy armor who wields a very, very large sword. So you may want to look at that anime or manga for animations, for ability ideas. Who knows, they have plenty of inspirations to draw on from previous Final Fantasy games, but like I said, no new information, just these screenshots, so let's move on to the 2 new jobs that were announced at the Japanese Fan Festival. So the second job I want to talk about in this video was the first of 2 jobs that was introduced to us at the Japanese Fan Festival, and that is the Astrologian. Now, this is a new healer that is being added to Final Fantasy XIV in Heavensward, and to be honest, we don't really know all too much about it yet. I mean, we know it's a healer, and we know their weapon of choice is a star globe, which allows them to communicate with the stars and use that to heal. How that's going to differ from just cure magic and physic, no idea. But I'm sure it's going to have baselines that are very similar, very basic heal, on top of some things that are maybe unique. You know, like a Loquium has the shield component. We'll see if this has maybe different components compared to those things. Now, the big thing that we're left wondering about is their unique mechanic, which is called the Divining Deck, which is basically a deck of cards that they're able to use supporting buffs or heal, or we don't really know. We just know that it's part of their kit and it's going to be something that makes them stand out over the other 2 healing jobs. What it brings to the party, we don't really know yet. So while we're waiting for information, feel free to speculate and just kind of hope on how this job is going to work. Guess how it's going to really fit into the party structure for Final Fantasy XIV especially. Now, I would like to mention really quickly that this job actually was teased to us in 2.4. The Ishgards actually mentioned their Astrologians, but nobody looked at that and said, oh, that's definitely going to be a new job. So go back and watch 2.4, or I'm sure you could browse Reddit and find a screenshot of it at any point. But this was actually teased to us a little while ago. Interesting. I'm very interested to see how the Astrologian is going to work. Now, the second job that was revealed at the Japanese Fan Festival for Final Fantasy XIV, making this the 3rd job in total so far, is the Machinist. This is a ranged DPS, and yes, this is the fabled gun job that we have been waiting for a long time for. We have been hearing about a gun job since before A Realm Reborn even launched in the form of the Musketeer class, but what we got in the end was the Machinist. So let's talk a little bit about what we know about it so far. Now, the only thing that we had known prior to this was that it was somehow related to 007, and it seems that the way that it's related to 007 is not just in that it uses a gun, in that it's able to use gadgets and attachments in order to change the way that the job plays on the fly. Now, again, we totally don't know what that means. For all we know, that could be just like the KISS system for Ninja or the fist systems for Monk, but it seems that they are able to equip attachments to their gun to modify the individual shots that they are able to pump out. Very interested to see how this interacts with the job itself. If it's going to be a very active role of reloading your bullets and loading different different bullets into the gun, maybe Outlaw Star style, where he has all these different kinds of bullets, or if it's going to be a more static thing where you place a buff up and it just kind of changes one or two of your abilities. We don't know yet, so not going to speculate on that too much. The other thing that the job is able to do is place turrets in areas that do, who knows what they do. We don't. All we know, or all that we can speculate so far, is that there will be multiple turrets. As you can see from this image from the fan festival, that there is this turret. You can see it's more of a round turret, and then you have this image, which is more of a long turret flying above the ground. We don't know what these different turrets are going to do. We don't know if they're going to be buff oriented. We don't know if they're going to deal damage in an area, maybe deal damage in a line. We have no idea yet, but this job has a lot of potential, like the other jobs in the expansion, really, to really implement new mechanics into the game and not just build upon what is already there. This is the expansion. Go nuts, Square Enix. Give us all this new kinds of crap that we can find unique uses for in endgame fights. Now, I suspect that they may do that because they specifically said that some of the new primal fights are going to have mechanics that the new jobs specifically interact with in order to encourage people to try them out. Now, that could be good, that could be bad, depending on how you want to look at it, but I hope that means that they really bring something new, and they're not just kind of like the way Ninja is, where yes, they have the Mudras, and yes, they have this different way of doing damage, but other than Goad and Trick Attack, it's not like they really are game changers, you know? I want to see some game changers, some really unique stuff, and these jobs all have the possibility to do it. Now, one last thing I want to touch on, and this involves all three of the new jobs, is that none of them have a base class, so we don't really know what that means yet, and it seems that Square Enix wants to talk about it a little bit more in the future. They're not really prepared to fully disclose that information yet, but that could mean a bunch of things. Some people think it means that all classes are going to be removed from the game. I used to think that maybe they'd get rid of Arcanist, separate Scholar and Summoner. I don't think that's so much anymore. I just think for the future, it's easier to implement just new jobs as opposed to having to create a class and then create a job off of that class. I think it's just easier going forward to implement things that don't use new jobs. What does that mean for the armory system, or more specifically the cross-class system? I can't say. We'll just have to wait really to see what Square Enix ends up having to say about this when they're ready to disclose all the rest of that information. But let me know what you think about these three new jobs in the comment section of the video below. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share if you're looking for all the latest information for Final Fantasy XIV, news, guides, whatever. I got it. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video, and until next time, take care.